You are tuned to ARP on the Accelerated Radio Network. It's 12 noon, and it's time to have lunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Bringing money talk you can understand. And now here's your host, Miss Charline.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Miss Charline, and welcome to Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Today in our studio, we have Michelle Akda, and she is a life coach. And we're going to be talking about how Michelle can help us move forward in a positive way in our life. How you doing today, Michelle?
I am great. How are you?
That's good. I'm doing really, really well. I'm so happy to meet you.
Likewise.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here. So very grateful for you having me on the show.
Well, let's jump right into it. So, this show is about wealth building, and we try to encourage business owners to, excel. And so we look at it from various aspects. And so today we want to talk about life coaching and how that plays into us becoming more successful. How's that?
Sounds great.
Okay. So I had some questions. First, I'd like to know, what made you decide to get into life coaching?
Well, as a kid, you're always asked as a 6-year-old, so what do you want to do when you grow up?
Right.
It's the most inane question for us, but it's wonderful. That's where the dream building starts, really. But I guess I was intuitive enough at age 6 or 7 to know that I wanted to be of service. So my rote answer was always, I want to be a psychologist and a singer. So I didn't really know what a psychologist was per se at that age, but I knew it meant that I was in service of people. Right. I knew that. And so I did a little bit of both. So I went on to get my master's degree in counseling psychology, and I've done a bit of singing over the years. So something I've always known, that I wanted to be of service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long have you been pursuing this career?
Well, probably all my life, I would say. As far as life coaching, life coaching sort of just sprung up in the last few years, where we hear a lot of a lot more about it. Now, we've always heard about, Tony Robbins is the ultimate life coach, and there's been some other, even Dr. Phil McGraw was Oprah Winfrey's life coach. Those were the sort of the sproutings of the idea of life coach, but then it just sort of started popping up everywhere. And I thought to myself, this seems like a really great umbrella to be able to serve under. Whereas psychology was a little more narrow, a little more focused on psychological aspects, although that's super important and great. But life coaching sort of opened up the umbrella to be able to work in a lot of different realms, spiritual realms, and be of greater service, and not just stick to all the things that happened in your past that may be affecting you in this moment.
Okay, that's a great answer. I think you're right when you talk about how life coaching kind of has popped up, and everyone's buzzing about life coaching. And I think years ago it was seen as something that maybe wealthy people, had, and it was kept more of a secret. It wasn't something that was talked about. They had coaches, but no one knew. Right?
It's really true. It really is true. And it seems logical, doesn't it? We see coaches on the field. Right. We see coaches, in the ring. Right. We see coaches coaching elite athletes. Right. And you think about, Donald Trump, he has certain business coaches. They're everywhere, yet the idea of life coach just seemed so esoteric. And well, why would I, as just a normal person, not being an elite athlete, need a coach? Right. But why wouldn't you? If the top people in the world and in their field have coaches.
And they're successful.
Right. Why would we not want to have that kind of success and that kind of support? And really, it's the support.
That's right. It's the support. And could you talk about the support a little bit? How does a life coach support you? How would you support your client?
Well, like in sports, you have a certain level of accountability, right? You're not going to miss practice. Right. You're not going to not do the 100 sit-ups and the thing. And so a life coach is somebody who is there to be a support and also an accountability partner and a partner in believing. Because very often we don't always believe in ourselves.
That's
so
very
sometimes
true.
you have to believe in another's belief in you. So I call myself a partner in believing. And I think that is super, super helpful and powerful when you're traversing the gap of, the life you've known and a life you're trying to bring about. You really have to have a belief level that's bigger than your knowledge of who you've been.
Right, because if not, you'll stay where you are. Is that the thought?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as you know, fear can keep us locked in a very safe place for a lifetime.
That's right.
A lifetime.
Or a very uncomfortable place because we're afraid to get out of it.
It is uncomfortable,
right.
But it's not more uncomfortable than traversing that gap. Sometimes we just stay in this quiet desperation, this level of uncomfortability that is familiar.
Yes.
And that's the thing.
Uncomfortably familiar.
At least it's familiar.
Yes. Yeah. I talk about that a lot. This is going to be a good interview. So I say that right off the top, right? So in your field, who at this point in your counseling, what type of person would come to you? Because I noticed that, when we talk about this outside of having a life coach in the room, you'll hear people say, well, I'd love to have a life coach, or I don't think I need a life coach. So what would be the type of person you would say would do well by being coached? I mean, I know everybody would, but what type of person do you see come forward to be coached more often?
Well, certainly somebody who resonates with my voice. So, it's so personal. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen a therapist, but during my getting my degree, I had to go to a therapist for my degree. I mean, It was good for me too. Let's not lie. And I went to a couple of different ones before I found one that I really resonated with. Mm-hmm. So really, it's that personal resonation. So somebody who hears my voice. Definitely, if I'm talking about a demographic, I love working with women. Anywhere from their 20s to their 40s, 50s, people who are in transition. Certainly happy to work with men, and I have. But there's a certain resonation with women, and I always call myself a woman's woman. So I always am able and seek out wonderful women friends. So I have a real affinity to work with and be of service to other women who have been in my shoes, who I've been in a place where I've needed coaching myself, and I've sought out other really outstanding women to coach me, and I still do.
Yeah, and I think that for women, to get a coach when they're not, an athlete or an entertainer or something like that, I think sometimes it's a easy transition because we are accustomed to kind of listening to each other anyway.
That is true.
This just adds a layer of accountability that's not usually in a female conversation. We'll just start talking.
Right.
Exactly. And then there's no real accountability. Yeah. We just talk till we feel better.
Right. It's your best friend. And, if they're calling you out, you're just like, excuse me. That's enough now. We're done talking.
Exactly. Like, I didn't ask for accountability.
Right.
I just asked you to listen.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we kind of get that. So the next question I have for you is, in a person's pursuit of, while they're being coached, are there benchmarks? Like, do you set, I know you set goals, but benchmarks so you know whether this person is moving forward, and you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we know when we're making progress. Mm-hmm. We certainly have weekly tasks. I have a 12-week program where each week there's written work to do. There's out in the real world work to do, do something that scares you, make that phone call, do the thing. Mm-hmm. We come back next week and we talk about that, which you've gone out into the world and done.
Right.
So whether it is making an appointment with, to have some sort of meeting with someone that's going to better your career, or if you're somebody who's looking for the love of your life, to get out and not be sitting in front of your TV. And so there's real life work, there's written work, so there's introspective work, and over the course of 12 weeks, we hope and believe that we start moving forward with that work and with that accountability.
Okay, so it's about 12-week laid out plan to get started.
Yeah, I have a program called Quantum Leap, building the life of your dreams, 90 days to building the life of your dreams.
Oh, right. Okay. And so in 90 days, that Quantum Leap, and we're going to get to your book too, because you've written a book, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and I want to talk about your book too. We'll get to that. But when a person takes on this, coach, I need to be coached, and they go through your Quantum Leap program of 12 weeks, what is the expectation on the other side of that?
Well, personally, I don't have an expectation of anybody. So it is a matter of what the client is expecting of themselves. And there's no grand ending. So this is a 12-week thing, but then we do it again the next 12 weeks and we move on and we do it again. This is not a thing where 12 weeks and boom, you got the love of your life, you have the career of your dreams, you're healthy and you're able-bodied, and it's a process, and this is a very, very beginning of a lifetime process, a lifetime of work, because within the program we do forgiveness work, we do work on increasing our sense of deserving, and these are things that are a process throughout life that we never finish doing. They're practices, and like practicing guitar or martial arts, you don't ever say, oh, I got my black belt and I'm done. Right. It is a practice that we remain in. And so after that 12 weeks, we have a conversation about what's next, whether we work together. And I'm building a 6-month program that surrounds a group of books that I study and that I teach, and that keeps you in the work and in the practice of evolution and moving forward in your life. So it doesn't end at 12 weeks. Right. There's no grand expectation, but it's the beginning of the practice to start being mindful about how you're thinking, what you're doing, and how you're moving through the world.
Right. And that's the part I wanted to bring out, because I don't want the listeners to get the idea that, this is like a class you take at school, a college class where it's a 12-week class. And at the end, you get an A and you just move on. Being coached is a lifelong process if you want to be successful. You need coaching from somewhere, someone, something.
Absolutely. And it doesn't necessarily have to be from me at that point, because we all evolve. I've had different coaches over the years myself who have brought me to different levels. Right. And they're all amazing, and I always stay connected to them. But there's a certain evolution in the coaching as well. As much as I want to, be able to be a joyful partner and believing with my clients throughout their lives. Right. It's like anything, there's an evolution to it. And sometimes we have to move on to other teachers.
Right. Now, offline, you were talking about you were saying that there were different parts of focus when you're coaching someone. And so could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. There's different phases when in this particular program. So there's sort of a discovery phase or blueprinting. So many people you ask, what would you love? Right. And they just don't know, because as adults, we sometimes forget to dream. Right. We have to take the kids to school, and we have a job, and we're doing the thing. And we just forget this dream building part of us that at 7, we thought anything was possible, right? I'm going to be a singer and a psychologist. That's right. So though I'm not, this amazing singer on Broadway at this time, I still love singing and I still do that. But it's about getting back to the dream. So there's sort of a blueprinting phase. Most people are just like, well, I want to be happy. I just want to find love. And if you went to an architect and asked them to build you a house, and you said, well, I want a happy house, and I want a joyful house, I want a house with love, and they'd look at you like you were crazy. You need to be specific, right? And you need to create a blueprint. So very often that first part of the program is a little more difficult, because I really have to get clients to get specific, right? Because the universe reads specificity, and it doesn't understand happy. It doesn't necessarily. I mean, it gets it, but what does that mean to you? It means different things to everybody.
That's right.
So we do some blueprinting, and then we do some internal work on believing you deserve You know, 'cause
and that's a big deal for most people to really truly believe that you deserve.
Absolutely. A sense of deserving, elevating that so that you can